All right. Thank you so much and happy spring. Really excited to be here today and meet all of you. I know that we have a small group, but that actually gives us an opportunity to interact. And so if there's any questions that you have during the webinar, please feel free to put them in the chat, or you can ask whatever works best for you. So we are going to talk about how to create an amazing student bio. So can everyone see my screen? Just want to make sure. Oh, wait. Okay. Yes. Okay, beautiful. Okay, great. And then in the chat, I'll try to monitor the chat, but in case I'm not able to, please feel free to speak up or to type in the chat. So this is actually my favorite thing to do for a number of reasons. For one thing, I'm a writer. I actually am a writer. I write in my spare time. And one of my favorite parts of my job in working with students is helping them craft their essays, whether it be a personal statement to transfer, or whether it be writing a scholarship application, or whether it be applying for REUs. So that's kind of exciting because this gives me an opportunity to merge both of those things together. So two of my favorite things, which are helping students pursue opportunities that will support their endeavors in STEM, and secondly, helping students to write. So this is going to be really fun. So whenever I give a talk, I like to know who is speaking, who's talking. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give you my professional profile. So this is what you see. Like if you were to Google me, if you were to go on my LinkedIn, right, this is what you'd see. You would see, that my name's Tiffany Reardon. You would see that I graduated from San Francisco State University. You would see that I worked at Skyline College for 8 years. I ran their MESA program. And you would see that after that, I worked at the MESA statewide office. And you would see then that I went to UC Berkeley, and at UC Berkeley, I ran the T-Prep program. You would see all of these things. You'd also see some of the other projects that I'm involved with. You would see, some of the things that I do. That tells you what I've done professionally. But I really would like to share, and I think that this is really appropriate given that we're talking about bios. What you won't see is what I call the true Hollywood story. So I was a first-generation college student. Now, first-generation college student, meaning neither of my parents earned a 4-year degree in the U.S. I was a student parent. I had my daughter when I was a sophomore in college, and that was really a very interesting experience. It was definitely challenging, but really it shaped not only my experience in college, but it shaped kind of my path moving forward. When you're a first-generation college student, and then you graduate and you get your first career, then you're a first-generation professional. So as a student that was a first-generation college student, imposter syndrome definitely kicked in. As a first-generation professional, I had kind of those same experiences. Coupled with that, I actually don't have a STEM background. My background is in sociology. My background is in education. So being a sociologist in a sea of STEM folks, that kind of also added to that imposter syndrome. But I've been working with STEM students for so long that I kind of call myself an engineer by osmosis. So I, know a lot about, STEM paths and working with STEM students. And I know a lot about transfer students, which really brought me to my current position at UC Berkeley. So at UC Berkeley, so if any of you decide that you're going to transfer to UC Berkeley, I hope you do. And if you do, I hope you consider participating in the Transfer Pre-Engineering program. This is a program that we have to support students and to build community amongst transfer students at Berkeley. Aside from that, I've had a lot of students that I've worked with over the years, and I've helped them to apply to graduate school. And I know you might be thinking, well, I'll think about that, but I will tell you, it's not something that it's not too early, right? It's never too early to start thinking about kind of your dream career, or, perhaps getting an advanced degree if that's what you like. REUFinder, which is something that I created a few years ago, that's where I call imposter syndrome no more, because, and I think part of it is just confidence, and part of it is just when you're really passionate about something and you enjoy doing something, you're able to take risks. And there's a lot of fulfillment in taking risks. It is scary, but I always say, thinking back on any time that you've probably been successful at something, there were probably some risks involved. And so it's a good thing. All right, so really quickly, for those of you that have not heard of REUFinder, I like to call it a one-stop shop for opportunities, advice, and funding. Aside from getting students REUs, there's also scholarships, there's also conferences that you can attend. And these are very, very wonderful, especially as transfer students, as you think about where you want to transfer, right? As you think about what schools you want to transfer to, what programs you want to pursue, it's really good if you engage in these experiences while you're at the community college. So I know we have a pretty small group here, but I'm really interested in finding out. And if you want to just put it in the chat, let me know what school you're from and what major you're pursuing right now. You can just type it in the chat. So what your major is and what school you're currently attending. So what major and what school? Okay, Cuesta College, Environmental Engineering, wonderful. Nutrition, Moore Park, Ventura, great. And Electrical Engineering at Cuesta College, fantastic. So those of you that are at the community college, your major that you're pursuing might be called one thing at one school, or it might be called something else at another school. That's one of the beautiful things about community college, is that right now you can change, right? You can change your mind. We have biology, Hancock College, great. So I really like to encourage students, and when I worked at a community college, oftentimes I would have my own students pursue REU programs or research projects, just so they can kind of get some hands-on experience related to the major. Because from being on the other side, right, being at a university where I see students, I think the number one thing that I notice is that if a student is in the right major, they're going to have a wonderful experience. And so I think part of it is just making sure that you actually pursue the right major. And I know that, at the community college, you're taking a lot of lower division coursework, right? So all of you on the call today, biology, electrical engineering, nutrition, environmental engineering, you're probably all taking the same classes, right? You're probably all taking, calculus, math, physics, right? So it's not until you get to the upper division classes that you really kind of get into the major. But you have these opportunities to participate in programs that will give you a glimpse of what that major entails and some career paths that you might pursue. And guess what? You can actually get paid to do these, right? Which is always nice. Okay, on that note, it is March, not May, it's March. March is actually scholarship season. And so there are a lot of really good scholarships that are available now. I have a couple on this slide. Great Minds in STEM is recruiting for their scholarships, PG&E, Lockheed Martin, and others. There are some scholarships that you can apply for now. And I mention this because today's exercise that we're going to do on creating a student bio, this is completely relevant. So, anytime that you see scholarships, I would say apply. In addition, anytime you see a scholarship that says deadline extended, that means that they did not get enough applicants. And if there are not enough applicants, and I've seen this, I have seen situations where they have more scholarships than applicants. And the thing is that, you know, I've encountered times where students don't apply. And if you don't apply, then you don't have a chance. But if you do apply to one scholarship, you can really easily tailor other scholarship applications, you know, around those. So like, let's say, for example, you get a letter of recommendation and someone writes you a strong letter of recommendation. If there's another scholarship that you apply for, it's very easy to get another letter of recommendation. So these really go hand in hand. Okay, so on that note, those of you that are maybe considering research programs, I wanted to share with you one opportunity that is still accepting students for this coming summer. So this coming summer, Ohio State is recruiting students for their REU site. And this is an opportunity, and as you can see, they accept all STEM majors and everything from freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and non-graduating seniors. So you don't have to have previous research experience if that's something that you're interested in. And so there are a lot of these opportunities that, just like scholarships, right? Sometimes you'll see deadline extended because they haven't gotten enough candidates. And I wouldn't say it's because of lack of interest. I would say oftentimes really, really wonderful candidates maybe worry and think, oh, you know, I don't want to apply because I don't have enough experience, or, you know, maybe my GPA isn't too high, or maybe they're looking for, you know, someone that fits a different profile. I'm telling you, your story and who you are and what you bring to the table is very, very important. And so I'm actually pretty excited that today I'm going to kind of go over with you how to tell that story. And I would say how to tell that story really, really begins with creating your bio. So what is a bio and why do you need one? So a bio, and we've all seen bios. If you ever look at, let's say, for example, a company webpage, right? You look at a company's webpage and you might see, you know, about the company, and you see who works at the company. Or maybe if you've gone to a conference and you're going to hear a speaker, and oftentimes they'll have a photo, maybe a headshot, and then they'll have the speaker's bio in that. So as a student, you might think to yourself, well, I don't really need a bio just yet. I'll wait, you know, until I graduate, or maybe until I, you know, get further along. I would say that you should have a bio now. And I'm really excited that the team in C6, you know, decided that, yes, this is something that you should pursue, because they know that you will get scholarships. They know that you will get awards. They know that you will get these opportunities. So the fact that you're, you know, preparing a bio really is setting yourself up for success, and it never fails. I had a student one time, we were doing this bio exercise, and he emailed me and he said, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe it. I got a scholarship and they asked me to submit a bio, and I had my bio, right? So kind of just putting that out there, that that the more prepared that you are, and the more organized you are, and the more that you have these things, when these opportunities come up, you can simply, you know, send your bio. So if you are accepted for a scholarship, sometimes they will ask you for a headshot and a bio. Let's say you have an award and you receive an award, or a job, or maybe you're a panelist. Maybe you are excited, you know, about something, and you do something, and you're asked to be a speaker. If you present something, how many of you are involved in the Phi Theta Kappa or the honors program on your campus? Those are also good ways to, you know, kind of build your leadership, and also present speaking opportunities. So these are just some examples of where a bio might come into place. And if you have a LinkedIn, for example, I would encourage you to have a LinkedIn. That's somewhere you might also have your bio. Okay, so we're going to see an example of a bio. So the cool thing about this particular student is I actually know this student. And spoiler alert, her bio tells a story, right? So does anyone want to volunteer and read the bio? Is anyone interested in that? No? Okay, I'll go ahead and read the bio. Okay, so Sarai Narabaragocha is a senior majoring in electrical engineering at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. Last summer, Sarai participated in an REU at St. Johns Hopkins University, where she worked in the applied physics lab. Sarai's passion is not limited to electrical engineering. She's also passionate about advocating for those who are less fortunate. At Morgan State, she founded and chartered a chapter of GlobeMed, a national organization that addresses health inequity in the world by partnering chapters with grassroots organizations that focus on improving their community's health. Under Sarai's leadership, the Morgan State chapter was able to educate students on social injustices through awareness events and raise money for hand washing systems in 23 Cameroonian schools. After earning her bachelor's degree, Sarai plans to pursue an MD, PhD in psychiatry and neural engineering. So I know this student. This student was a student that came to an REU program that I was running, and now she's in medical school. And I love this example because when I read her REU application, and I knew she was majoring in electrical engineering, but she talked a lot about her extracurricular involvement and her leadership. And at the time, she was, not sure if she wanted to go the, electrical engineering PhD route or the MD route. And so this was really this opportunity for her to explore that. And so I use this example because one, it really, you can tell that she's very passionate about something that doesn't really have to do with electrical engineering, right? In addition, she went to pursue an MD, and she's now in medical school. For the students that are on the call today, what kind of jumps out at you as you read this? Is there anything that you can identify with when you read this bio? Anything that resonates with you? Anything that maybe you have in common? Or what do you think about when you read this bio? Any immediate responses that come to mind? Okay, well, let's do the next one. The next one might perhaps give you. Okay, so I'm going to read. Okay, so I also want a medical career. Okay, great. So another person says, I like that it states that she wasn't limited to electrical engineering and she was able to do more in areas that she's passionate about. And Natalie says, I also have many passions and interests. Wonderful. I'm going to read the next one. So the next one is a student, Hector Santos. So Hector is a sophomore majoring in mechanical engineering at Santa Barbara City College. Hector is a graduate of Goleta High School in Goleta, California. From a young age, Hector has been interested in space. During high school, he entered an independent film in the Central Coast Educational Video Awards Festival and won Best Editing and Best Picture. He continues to nurture this interest by working on projects that allow him to combine his passion for space with his film editing skills. Last summer, Hector was one of 24 students selected to participate in NASA's National Community College Aerospace Scholars Program, where he worked with NASA scientists and engineers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Hector plans to transfer to a four-year university in fall of 2023. After earning his bachelor's degree, he plans to attend graduate school. Is there anyone else who has anything in common with Hector? And did you notice anything different about Hector's bio this time around? And like the first bio, the student has interests outside of their major. And I think all too often, one of the things that I see when I work with students is sometimes students think that they're, things that you might be interested in that maybe don't directly, you don't directly affiliate with STEM and with your major, but as you think about those things, there could be, and oftentimes there is overlap. So I use these two examples because I think that for a lot of students, these are kind of examples that one, they tell a story, and two, these are opportunities that you all as STEM students can pursue similar opportunities. And lastly, one of the things that you noticed in the bios is that, in Hector's bio, for example, he plans to transfer to a four-year university. It doesn't say where. Now, full disclosure, this student doesn't know where they're going to transfer to. And, they're considering graduate school. So sometimes, students know exactly what they want to do. And sometimes students are just keeping their options open. And it's actually pretty exciting when you keep your options open, because that means that you will likely be open to pursuing a lot of different opportunities. All right, so now it is your turn. So what I'd like everyone to do is I'd like you to, either get a pencil or pen, or, you can laptop, whatever, but something you can write. And we're going to work on your bio. So I like to think about this as like a Mad Libs, right? I don't know. Has anyone ever done Mad Libs? Mad Libs was a game that sometimes, we do, where it's like a writing game where you add words and then you come up with a story. Has anyone ever heard of Mad Libs? It's kind of a fun thing. But this is, writing a bio is very, very easy. And I like to call it just like Mad Libs, right? So you might think, oh, I have to write this complicated bio. It's like super easy. So go ahead and get your, whatever you're going to write with, whether it's a, pen, pencil, maybe you have a notebook, whatever, laptop, and you're going to write your bio. So we're going to start off with, who are you? So, who are you? So when we say, who are you? What do you have people refer to you by, right? So maybe you have, your full name that you go by. Maybe you have a nickname that you, go by. What you prefer to be called, how you identify yourself, right? So your name, who are you? And then once you've written that, just give me the thumbs up so I know that you've done that. All right. Where are you from? So some examples. Maybe you're from the Central Coast, and chances are most of you are currently living in the Central Coast, but maybe you're originally from the LA area, right? Or maybe you're from a specific city in the LA area. Maybe you're from out of state. Maybe you're from out of the US. People like specifics. So the more specific that you are, the more memorable. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write down where you're from. I know that some of you, you know, might be in the city that you were born and raised in, or whatever whatever you call home. So feel free to write whatever you'd like. And then when you're finished, give the thumbs up. Okay. What are you proud of? So this question is asking, what do you believe makes you stand out? So something dynamic that you are doing or have done during your time in community college, or it could be something in high school, or perhaps it's something different altogether. So it's very common for students to perhaps attend more than one community college, right? I think there was a student on here that's attending Moore Park and Ventura. Maybe you started taking classes when you were in high school, right? That's something that I've seen students do. Maybe you're working and going to school. That's certainly an achievement. I know from firsthand experience that if you're going to school and you're managing work at the same time, that tells me that you are very good at time management. It also tells me that you're very determined. So if that's something that you're proud of, and you want to mention that, please feel free. Maybe you were involved in sports, maybe you were involved in a hobby or some extracurricular activity, but something dynamic that you've done, and something that really illustrates something, a project or something that you feel very, very passionate about. So I'm looking in the chat and it says, Natalie says, I have many passions and interests. And then we have another student that says, I also want a medical career. So think about those things that you've done that really are dynamic and that really mean a lot to you, and write that down. In the case of the last two bios that we read the one where Sarai was, she did the REU at Johns Hopkins. She, was involved in the organization that she, worked with. And then Hector, of course, he talked about, the video award and the NASA Aerospace Scholars Program. So these were things that he did that he was proud of. So what are you proud of? And it could be a program that you've done. It could be that you're involved with the MESA program. It could be you're involved with the LSAMP program. It could be that you are taking classes at 2 community colleges. It could be that you're working and going to school. It could be you're the first person in your family to go to college. It could be any number of things. It could be that you're the first person in your family to graduate from high school. It could be anything, but something that you really feel that is dynamic and that you're proud of. And when you've written that down, give me the thumbs up. Okay, so when you graduate, what do you plan to do after? So when you graduate, so all of you are now at community college. Now think about it. You're at community college. You will transfer. You will transfer to a major. And think about the degree that you will transfer to, right? So let's say, for example, looking at the list, right? So electrical engineering degree currently at Cuesta. Maybe you're transferring to Cal Poly, right? Biology degree. Maybe you're transferring to Davis. Maybe you're transferring to UCSB. Maybe you're transferring to UC San Diego. What do you plan to do after you transfer? And what is your dream job? So maybe maybe you're like, okay, I'm going to transfer to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and after I graduate, I'm going to get a job and I'm going to be an engineer working at Boeing, right? Maybe that's what you want to do, and that's what you want to do. Maybe you don't know, and that's totally okay too, right? But even if you don't know like what you want to do specifically, think about what your dream job would be. Is it working in, aerospace industry? Is it working in robotics? Is it going to medical school? And if you do want to go to medical school, think about what that would look like, right? So think about what that would look like. Maybe you don't want to go to medical school. Maybe you want to do research that is related to medicine and related to healthcare. But think about that, right? Just kind of putting that out there about what you'd like to do after you graduate. I always tell students that if you work backwards, it's sometimes easier, right? If you think about like what you want to do ultimately, then it's easier to kind of go and think, okay, this is my dream job. What kind of degree do I need to get? What kind of experience do I need to get, right? And then these building blocks. And then, of course, you can align yourself with people that have those dream jobs, right? But if you don't know what you want to do, that's okay too. But just kind of, thinking about the classes you enjoy, thinking about what you want to do. And after you've done that, and after you've decided, go ahead and do a thumbs up. Okay. Okay. So this is an important thing, incorporating the why. Everybody has something that motivates them. So talk about that. Talk about that in your bio. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I was a first-generation college student, and being a first-generation college student for me, it was very difficult because I didn't have anyone that, I can kind of go to talk to about my experiences in college. And so why I'm, now in this line of work, and why I, do these types of projects that, encourage students, that's the motivation for me. Because I understand and I know that the opportunities that are available to students. And when I was a student, I actually, didn't apply for a lot of things, or I didn't pursue a lot of things until grad school, because at that, time when I was an undergrad, I didn't really understand and I didn't really know. And so that really motivates me, right? That's something that I really feel that is something that I can do to kind of, uplift others and help others and encourage others. So that's something I'm passionate about. So everybody has something that motivates them. Talk about that, right? Maybe, for example, you're interested in going to med school. Maybe because you, have had, someone in your family that's been impacted. Maybe yourself that's been impacted. Maybe you're interested in transportation, right? Maybe you grew up in a place that doesn't have a great infrastructure. Maybe, there could be a variety of reasons. But what is it that motivates you and incorporating the why. That's very important. So think about that for a minute and think about why you want this dream job, why you want this major. Think about that and write that down. And then when you're finished, put the thumbs up. All right. So, does anyone feel comfortable sharing their bio? And you don't have to read all of your bio, but just any part of your bio. Does anyone feel comfortable? You can either put it in the chat, or if you're able to, unmute yourself and share what you wrote about yourself. Does anyone feel comfortable doing that? And this is a rough draft, so it doesn't have to be completely polished, but this is just kind of, beginning that story. So does anyone feel comfortable doing that? So who are you? Where are you from? What are you proud of? What do you want to do when you graduate? And then incorporating the why. And has anyone ever done anything like this before? Has anyone ever, created a bio? Some of you might have resumes, right? Oh, okay, great. So if you have created a bio, does anyone want to share, or does anyone feel comfortable sharing? If you can. So if you can share, that would be, just to kind of give you some feedback on that. So if anyone is willing or able to, we could also do breakout rooms if folks feel more comfortable that way. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, great. So we have one person that's still willing to share. I'm the mom of an amazing 12-year-old daughter. I graduated from UC Davis in interior architecture, and 20 years later, decided to pursue my passion in nutrition and went back to school to do my undergrad in science. Beautiful. So I can see right away that being a student parent, I absolutely can relate to that. But it also shares and it also shows that the motivation, right? The motivation. So so going from interior architecture and then pursuing the passion in nutrition and going back to school to do a degree in undergraduate science. So that tells a story, right? So is anyone else willing to share? And also perhaps the tie-in between, working in interior architecture and how that experience led to deciding, I'm gonna, pursue a passion in nutrition, right? I think oftentimes as STEM students, we think about, things on a linear path. But if we think about our own experiences in life, it's very, very seldom that there is a linear path, right? And those non-traditional paths or those non-linear paths, they really, really create a lot of resilience, and they also create and open up opportunities, and I think are very inspiring. So I love that. So does anyone else want to share? Okay, great. So Tiffany Pineda grew up in Salinas, California, before moving to the rural town of Bradley. She's a re-entry student after leaving Cuesta College to become an H-60 Black Hawk helicopter mechanic for 7 years in the Army. During her time in the Army, she also became a crew chief before becoming crew chief's instructor. She then returned to school after completing her contract. After receiving her bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, Tiffany plans to go to work towards sustainable energy. Wonderful, wonderful. So that tells us a lot about what Tiffany's going to do. We also see that Tiffany spent time in the Army. So Tiffany was a veteran, and a lot of that experience and leadership and things she did really kind of those technical skills that she acquired, very, very likely those technical skills that she acquired and that experience of being a helicopter mechanic and all of these experiences, there are many programs that would love to have you in their program. And so I hope that you know, that you don't wait until you transfer or wait until, you know, later on. I hope that you explore some of these opportunities, you know, now. And if you're not sure where you want to transfer to, just know that, you know, there's a lot of schools that would be thrilled. I think both of the bios that we've heard so far, I think as you work on your personal insight questions and personal history statements, those stories will really be celebrated and you bring a lot to the community. So that's another thing about the bio that, you know, I think, has anyone, and I'm assuming all of you are planning to transfer to a four-year school. Have any of you been to the personal statement workshops or anything related to personal statements? Or is anyone transferring perhaps? Maybe you're awaiting decisions. I know that admissions decisions for some four-year schools have already been announced. And some of them are, you know, going to be, for the UCs at least, they'll be, you know, releasing those decisions pretty shortly. Has anyone applied or is anyone awaiting those decisions? I always remember when I worked at the community college, I remember November 1st to 30th, I spent a really, you know, the bulk of the time helping students work on their statements, and it was really great. Natalie says, I found my passion for the environment while volunteering at Pacific Wildlife Care. Cleaning oiled birds sparked my interest in wildlife and water pollution. And I've just been accepted to Cal Poly. Well, congratulations. That is amazing. Cal Poly is a really great school for a variety of majors. It's really good. I really love Cal Poly's the hands-on approach that they do and that they're known for. And so I think you're going to really enjoy that. And I love, Natalie, that you know, found your passion and what you want to do just simply from volunteering. I had a student, this was years ago, who was really interested in marine mammals and has pretty much dedicated her whole life to working with marine mammals. So that's pretty cool as well. So all of these, you know, kind of talking about your, what you're passionate about, you know, where you're from, I think that there's a tie-in. The reason why I always, you know, like to tell students to put where they're from is, one, I think that it also tells a story, right? So if you're telling that story where you're from, someone else might be from that same place. And so there is usually an instant connection, right? So if you, so Tiffany, for example, right? So Tiffany grew up in Salinas, right? So if you meet someone else from Salinas or in a nearby town from Salinas, I'm sure that there's an instant connection, right? So I always say that the more that you can connect with people and the more that you can, not only connect with people, but the more that you can understand, like, once you're out of your environment, that you really understand kind of the cultural nuances. I think that it's really wonderful when, students go back. When students go back, maybe they've, transferred, maybe they've, moved. If you go back, and I've seen a lot of students, go back to their community colleges, go back to their high schools, universities. If that's something that once you've gotten your dream job and once you've, done that, I think that's very inspiring. So I hope that everyone on the call today, once you have, gotten your dream job and once you've, gone back, and, once you're in that, where you want to be, that you come back and you talk to the next generation of students. I mean, perhaps, maybe you'll be doing a Zoom call or an in-person call like this, just to talk to students and inspire them, because it really does make a difference. Does anyone else want to share? And so, so what you would do is when you write the bio, you would write the bio in third person, right? So Tiffany, for example, Tiffany Pineda, she wrote it, she's grew up in Salinas. She's a reentry student, so she wrote it in third person. So when you write your bio and you share your bio, it's usually in third person. Now, if you have a LinkedIn, generally you would write it in first person, right? So you would just simply, you would just convert it to a first person experience. But that's customary. And sometimes people have short bios and they have longer bios. If you ever look at any professors, oftentimes they will have a short bio and they'll have a longer bio. And just, it's really interesting to see, how people have their bios. There is kind of a formula for bios. And so these are kind of the things that I incorporated in this exercise. But I always say, as you read people's bios, if there's a certain way that the person presents themselves, and if you feel that presenting yourself in that way really reflects who you are, I say go for it, right? But I think these fundamentals are really helpful, especially as a student bio, right? So where you're from, what you're proud of, maybe, what major you're pursuing right now. You might even indicate that you are at a community college and, this is when you plan to transfer. I think those are helpful. Okay. So how does your bio help you? Aside from, having the bio, if you need the bio for an award you won or an honor you've received, or maybe you're a panelist, a bio helps you to articulate your interests. So as we see, and I'm just kind of reading the, what folks shared. For example, we have, I'll use Tiffany's example. So she wants to get a degree in electrical engineering, but she also wants to work towards sustainable energy. And then we have Natalie, who is passionate about the environment, and she's just been accepted to Cal Poly. So if you look at like what folks are interested in, so Natalie, for example, she's doing environmental engineering, right? So really helping articulate your interest. There's something called, so you have your major, right? Everyone has their major, but I think it's very, very helpful that you look at sub-disciplines of your major. And I think that that's important because I don't know if we have any mechanical engineering students on here, but I'll use mechanical engineering as an example. Mechanical engineering is a pretty broad field, right? We've got, applications of, in mechanical engineering, we've got, aerospace engineering, we've got robotics, we've got transportation, we've got, a lot of things. In electrical engineering, we've got a lot of different, there's some overlap, right? So it sounds like you're interested in sustainable energy, but maybe someone else who's in electrical engineering is interested in circuits or embedded systems or things like that. So really, as you think about what you're interested in pursuing, I would say, think about the subdisciplines that you're interested in, right? For example, computer sciences, right? Computer sciences is a pretty broad major. Maybe you're interested in data science. Maybe you're interested in material science. Maybe you're interested in biology, right? Maybe you're interested in biology, but when you transfer, you want to get into biochemistry or molecular and cellular biology, right? So I would say look at the different subdisciplines of those majors and look at the career options. Building confidence. I think that when you write a bio and you really reflect on the things that you've done, it does help build confidence, because then you realize, wow, I've actually, done a lot. And that linear path, regardless of, how long it takes, the fact of the matter is that you've done this, right? And you should be proud of yourself for your accomplishments that you've made and the accomplishments that you are pursuing. Think of it as a written elevator pitch. We use that term elevator pitch a lot. Does everyone know what an elevator pitch actually is? Does anyone know what that means? I know we call it an elevator pitch because basically the thought is that, you go in an elevator and you kind of talk to someone and introduce yourself. It's basically pretty much what your bio. Who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing? And, lastly, what do you hope to pursue? And when you have that elevator pitch, the elevator pitch essentially, and you might tailor it towards whoever you're talking to, but let's say, for example, that you're going to office hours, right? Let's say that you're talking to a professor, or you're going to office hours and you're talking to them, and you kind of introduce yourself. Now you don't say, I'm going to give you my elevator pitch, but what you do say is, I'm taking your class, and this is why I'm taking your class. I'm majoring in this major, and I'm taking this class to fulfill my requirements so I can transfer to whatever school, and then after I transfer, I want to get my degree, and I want to pursue my dream job, whatever that dream job is. That elevator pitch, right? Although when we think of elevator pitch, sometimes we might think of like if you're going to a career fair or you're talking to someone, but really that elevator pitch is not just, to help you get a job. That elevator pitch really is to help you to network and connect with people that can help you, right? And help you on that path, whether it be getting an internship, whether it be getting a scholarship, whether it be connecting you with someone that can help you in some way. And so having that bio and that written, it also kind of turns into an elevator pitch. You want the elevator pitch to sound genuine. You don't want it to sound kind of, mechanical. And I've had students like literally come up to me and give me their elevator pitch as if they were reciting something. And you don't want that. You want it to become organic, right? You want to just be able to talk to people, because a big part of getting connected to opportunities and getting people to kind of champion your efforts is really to be able to make those connections. And I would say not only connecting with people at your dream university or connecting with your professors or staff that can help you, I would say connect with each other and connect with students that are maybe a year or two ahead of you that are doing some things that you want to do. So for example, Natalie, right? Natalie has just been accepted to Cal Poly. I would encourage you to maybe reach out to former students at your college that have transferred to Cal Poly. So you are at Cuesta College, and I know Cuesta College has a lot of students that have transferred to Cal Poly. So I would, try to reach out to any other environmental engineering students that transferred from your school and connect with them. And you can give them your elevator pitch. And lastly, as we mentioned, the LinkedIn, if you decide to put your elevator pitch on LinkedIn, you should write it in first person. That's generally what people do. Although you can always have a third person one if you'd like as well. Does anyone have any questions about anything? And I realize we've covered a lot, but I just want to make sure that we have any questions, or if someone would like to share their own bio or anything. Any questions about anything? Oh, where could we find a recording of this? I believe Christine will have the recording available, and so you can watch the recording.
I will put the link in the chat.
That's a good question. And also share the recording. Share the recording with your friends, right? Share it with your friends. Maybe help them with their elevator pitch, right? You have yours, and you have your bio, your elevator pitch, right? So maybe show them a copy of your bio, right? I think that's something that I always like to share, knowledge and expertise, and that would be something that you could do as well. I don't know if any of you are involved in clubs at your school, but that might be a fun, exercise, right? You can have a day where you work on your bios. I want to mention as well the fact that you're involved in LSAMP, right? I don't know if you know this, but LSAMP is a national program. So you should include this on your scholarship applications. You should include this, maybe even include this in your bio. Because the thing is, if someone sees LSAMP on your resume, let's say you apply to an REU program, let's say you apply to, grad school down the line, let's say you apply to, community college, to transfer. Someone sees LSAMP on your application, they're going to say, oh, I know LSAMP. I was involved in LSAMP, right? And so again, it makes that instant connection. Just as I mentioned, when Tiffany says I'm from Salinas, right? And someone says, oh, I know Salinas. Similarly, like, oh, I know LSAMP, right? So really, like, putting those pieces together, it's really great. And so I know that there are a number of, for example, there's a number of research programs, paid research programs that LSAMP funds at different schools. And I know that they would love to have students participate in these opportunities. So leverage that, leverage those connections, leverage this wonderful network that you have. How many students would you say, Christine, are in the LSAMP network approximately?
Within the C6?
Yeah.
Approximately 250.
So you have a network of 250 students. You're part of this network. So leverage that network and be proud of that network. It's a great thing. Does anyone else have any other questions? Could be about anything. Letters of recommendation are also, a bio can also help with letters of recommendation. Sometimes students will ask for letters of recommendation. March is definitely a popular time for scholarships. And so sometimes when students ask for letters of recommendation, they'll give some bullet points of things that they would like their recommenders to highlight. And so that's something you might do as well, right? And if you have a kind of your, bio that, lets recommenders know about you, they know you through, your class, or they might know you if they're your counselor or your work supervisor, but they might not know, right? They might not know, for example, Natalie, right? They might not know that you started volunteering at the Pacific Wildcare, and that's how you kind of got experience related to your major, right? They're not going to know that. So people won't know things unless you tell them. And I think, going back to the whole scholarship, essays and personal statements, those are all storytelling. It's all storytelling. So really focus on telling your story, but not only focus on telling your story, focus on embracing your story, celebrating your story, and not trying to conform to someone else's story. Like your story, your path, is pretty amazing. And you want people to know. You want people to know what inspires you. You want people to know what motivates you. You want people to know the amazing things that you've done. And they're not going to know that unless you tell them, right? So really packaging that and articulating that in a way that not only gets you to whatever, goals you have set for yourself, but also is going to inspire other students as well. Do we have any other questions? So we have environmental engineering, electrical engineering, biology, medicine. Any other? It could be about the bio, or it could be about anything. Should we? Yes, great question. Yes, you should update your bio like a resume. Absolutely. Wonderful. Wonderful question. Update your bio because your dream job could change, your major could change. I would, if you're at a community college, I would put when you're going to transfer or where and what major, but that could change, right? Maybe you take a class and you decide, oh, I changed my mind, I want to major in something else, or I want to transfer to somewhere else. But yes, updating your bio, absolutely, you should definitely update your bio. That's a good question, and it's pretty exciting because your academic path could change. It could change, but you want to have an up-to-date bio. And I would say if you can do a headshot as well, that might be a really helpful thing to have. Just like a headshot, someone takes a nice photo, put that on your LinkedIn. It could be a bio and a headshot. I'm telling you, if you apply for scholarships, if you apply for REU programs, maybe there's campus. I'm sure all of your campuses have scholarships that you can apply for as well. Sometimes they might ask for those as well. So make sure you have all that. And it just makes it easier because when you have an opportunity and you send that. I get asked for my bio and headshot all the time. And it's very helpful because if I had to create a new one all the time, that would be that'd be a lot of work. About how long should I keep my bio? What would be considered too long? I would say one paragraph would be fine. One paragraph is just fine. It's not an essay. It's just, one paragraph would be good. Now, when you're writing an essay, right, it could be for a scholarship, could be for transfer, then it would be longer and you would add more, but just for a bio, one paragraph will be just fine. And sometimes they might actually give you a word limit too. So that's helpful if you know the word limit, but you can also have different versions of it, right? And also, depending on what it's for, you might have different versions of it as well. You don't want to put a laundry list of everything you've done, but depending on what the scenario is and what you're using it for, there might be some things that you want to highlight, right? let's say, for example, you're getting a scholarship or you're speaking on a panel about something specific to the school that you're attending or the area that you're from or something like that, then you would want to highlight those things. But it really all depends on what you're using it for, and you tailor it to that. But definitely having multiple versions is also very helpful as well. And on that note, I think that if you have an opportunity to be a panelist, if you have an opportunity to have a speaking engagement, I would say do that. I think that those experiences, because regardless of what your major is, regardless if you're pre-med student, if you're a environmental engineering, if you're electrical engineering, whatever your major, bio student, at some point you're going to have to speak in public, whether it's presenting your research at a conference. You're going to have to do public speaking. And I know a lot of students don't like public speaking, but it is a very, very good skill to have, and being able to communicate to a variety of people in a variety of settings, the more you practice that, the better. So I would say if that's something that you don't love, practice doing that as much as possible and kind of get out of that comfort zone. And before you know it, you actually will find yourself volunteering to give those types of public speaking. And I think also the amount of students that you will inspire by doing that is worth it. So having the confidence to create a bio and having the confidence to give an elevator pitch is going to open up many doors for you. And while these doors are being opened for you, you can then in turn open doors for others. So I would say, yeah, about a paragraph would be good. Any other questions? All right. Well, I would love to keep in touch with all of you. I'm on LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn all the time. I think LinkedIn is a phenomenal tool. So if you are on LinkedIn, connect with me. REUFinder, we have an Instagram page. We have a Twitter page, we have a Facebook page if you're on any of those social media platforms. And then of course, on the website. So we're posting a lot of scholarship opportunities. We have some REUs that are still accepting students for this summer. So if you're, if you don't have something planned for the summer and you want to, consider doing a paid research opportunity, or if you want to go to a conference, I know a lot of conferences that are taking place next fall. They're actually recruiting now for travel scholarships. So if you want to do some of those, REUFinder is a good place to find information about those. And yeah, I would love to connect on LinkedIn, and I hope to see and meet some of you in person at different venues.
Any final questions for Tiffany? Tiffany, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
so appreciate it. I'm just going to stop the recording now.